so much. My name is KULHAN. I'm a Chief Innovation Officer and Executive XR Producer of MUKI-INTERNATIONal. I'm also the lead for the IBC Accelerator Program. You're going to hear a bit more about that tomorrow morning and in various other panels. And I'm also proudly the UK Ambassador for WIT, which was once known as the Industries of Tomorrow. Yeah, thank you. Antoine, everybody. Antoine. What we do. That's right. We couldn't do this show without our beautiful AV team. Ladies and gentlemen, come on down. We've got plenty of seats in the front row. This is a very, very, very special panel. We're going to be deep diving into some key moments around the use cases of how XR and virtual reality, augmented reality, spatial audio have been affecting the space sector, not only from astronauts training, but also within mental health and the things that kind of go with the progression of our emerging media and emerging technologies that so many people in this room are exploring, not only through academia and research and technical papers, but really deploying, digging deep in your R&D, and then and going out to market too. So I was explaining, I'm proudly the UK Ambassador of WIT, the artist formerly known as Women in Immersive Technologies. It's a registered NGO in Brussels, right here, the home of WIT. And for next year is our 10-year anniversary, and we will be, last night was our relaunch party and our relaunch, which HTC proudly sponsors. And as of yesterday, we are now called the Women in Industries of Tomorrow. And what we want to be doing, looking at kind of the Gardner reports and things that we know are coming up in our worlds of technology, really looking at key areas around health, not only across like media and entertainment, which we have been, arts and culture, around healthcare again, AI embodiment, quantum compute, and of course space, which is why this series of WIT panels, the first of 3, tomorrow we've got the 6th off, and we also have a sex tech panel, addressing these areas that are the verticals that we're going to be showcasing. But throughout our 10 years, we started with 9 of us, and now it's a community of over 9,000 people, and we also partner with other women in sectors around the world, and now we're only going to be sharing that out to other communities. The purpose of WIT is also to, making sure that we are giving females and those who identify as females a voice on stage, permission to be strong, permission to be heard, but also making sure that we've got opportunities for every female to have a chance to be upskilled, come back to work if you've been on maternity leave, starting from age 10 years old to the C-suite levels, and really embracing our leaders in our industries, and also, super important, embracing our male allies who helped support us over the years too. We've got 18 ambassadors, like I said, I was one of them, and so part of this 2030 vision, this is all on our website, we're looking to train over 500 females up until 2030. We don't have much time, 4 years, looking at supporting more startups, and integrating partners and corporate fellows. So if you're interested in getting involved, please come see me. We've got a booth over at the startup stage in Shed 1, and really, really growing our community to be proper global strong, and looking at the industry. So we were starting with these industries from day one, again, founding partners, and where we want to kind of be going into space too. So this is also highlighting some of the programs we ran around. On stage here is the Augie Award winners from 2 years ago, or it might have been 3 years ago. We ran a program called the WIT Badass Girls, and we partnered with Meta and created opportunities for 13 to 17-year-old girls to learn coding, be creative, get involved, and they won an Augie People's Choice Award at AWE in Vienna a couple years ago, and some of them have gone on to stick together and made their own business, and they've only just turned 20 years old, so we're very, very proud of them too. So why we're here today, again, we're going to be talking about space, one of a huge favorite, one of my favorite topics, and one of the key verticals in WIT. So without further ado, I cannot wait for this panel and bring up a really nice kind of close-knit fireside chat. We've got two very, very, very special speakers that I'm going to introduce to the stage. So without further ado, we've got Thomas DEXMIER, who's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing of HTC VIVE EMEA. He's based in France, been working in this sector over 14 years, and he's been working very closely within telecommunication and retailers and B2B, and is going to present, be part of this really amazing case we have. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Thomas from HTC. Take a breath. Yeah, that we're doing. High five. Right, rock and roll. Vice President of Sales and Marketing, EMEA, HTC VIVE. And our second speaker has come all the way from London, but just got off the plane from Mexico. It's somebody that I've been waiting over 15 years to interview. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have a United XR exclusive today. Can I get a woo? Oh, great. 3 people. Woo, woo. It's my pleasure to bring onto the stage my very good friend, Dr. Alice Bunn, who received an OBE from the King a few years ago for her contribution to space. She's the president of Space UK and has been working in the space sector for over 25 years, much of it around leadership, innovation, and diplomacy, and has sat on global stages, oftentimes with about 60 men and one of 3 women, so this is very appropriate that she's been a strong supporter of WIT for a very long time too. But she's currently the president of UKSpace, recently was the CEO of the Institute of Mechanical Engineers, looked after staff and change, but working very closely in the European Space Agency. But we recognize her as a leader in this role, and her first ever United XR, and her first ever Women in Immersive Tech panel. Sorry, I just flubbed there. The WIT panel. Please give a massive United XR round of applause for my friend, Dr. Alice Bunn. Oh my God. Okay, see, she's representing space and very, very sparkly. I thought I'd wear Zodiac. I thought I'd wear like Zodiac signs here. So if you guys grab a microphone each, please. Thank you so much. So we're gonna get stuck in with like a little bit of an overview here. So what we have here is a really high-tech gadget thingamajiggy whiz bang, which we call ISS, which is the International Space Station. So Dr. Alice Bunn, aka Alice, I've seriously been waiting 15 years to interview her, so I'm really giddy. I'm like super stoked. If anyone sees me on stage, I don't get nervous about anything, but I'm just excited. I'm really excited. Right, so we know that obviously innovation, technology, emerging media has long been a part of the space sector. You know, without it, the space sector might not exist. You know, through engineering, through product, also through so much research and development. We've seen so many world firsts in the last few years here too. You know, can you give us like a little bit of a pie in the sky 200,000 million foot overview of how far the space sector's come with emerging media? Or we're just going to be giggling the whole time, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
With the space sector, and especially with emerging media and what we've got here. So welcome.
Thanks, Boogie. Whizzy Whiz Bang, that one's a sticker, isn't it? So the picture of the Whizzy Whiz Bang that you see in front of you, I guess for many people is quite an iconic representation of the space sector. Really timely, actually. So just last month was the 25-year anniversary of having a continuous human presence in space. And that was from the International Space Station, November 2000. So well-timed for this.
Good timing.
Yeah, for this presentation. And I guess, you know, for a lot of people, that's what we think about when we think about space. We think about exploration, we think about daring do, we think about travel. And the International Space Station is, if nothing else, a fantastic emblem of international cooperation. Over 100 countries have been involved in that program, have had experiments flown on that program. And as you can imagine, you know, we describe it as the single biggest engineering feat that has ever been achieved. The assembly of that station over a number of years in space is really, really remarkable. So it's really fun to come along today and to talk with Thomas in particular about how some of this new technology has been tried out in space, because the truth is XR is a relatively new addition for space programs. It has been used for a number of years, particularly in astronaut training. But yeah, we're going to hear a little bit more about that, aren't we? Yeah. And in terms of how far we've come, and again, fun fact, actually, it's not really that far. Did you know that space is 100 kilometers from the surface of the Earth? So,
Only 100 kilometers from that's not
exactly.
bad.
So I'm guessing for most people here, it'd be quicker to get into space than it would to get home.
Exactly. So, and Thomas, I've got your beautiful slide here to represent the space, but from a product perspective, what is your knowledge of like the earliest headsets that were used, say, for R&D?
They were big and bulky, and that would be an understatement, right? So the NASA and the ESA, and correct me if I'm wrong, because she has all the knowledge here. I'm just the tech guy.
You're XR, I'm space, remember?
Yeah, so they've been using it on Earth for quite a few years, actually. And when we launched the original VIVE, and that was 2015, that was a consumer product, and you guys remember that. And but really quickly, industries like space explorations and all of that started to get onto it, thinking, hey, we can actually start reproducing worlds that do not exist here on Earth and start simulating things so we can get trained on doing spacewalks without having to run the risk of whatever, right? If anything happens, you're in a safe space, so you're going to put the headset on, but you have the headset, and the headset is tethered onto a big PC, and that PC needs base stations for tracking, and the content is hard to get to, and then they start experimenting with haptics and gloves, and just to try and simulate everything that happens in microgravity, but doing it on Earth. And that was the very first step. And from that moment onwards, we thought there is something magical about XR for B2B. And that's how the whole market on our side evolved from B2C to B2B.
Exactly. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that in just a moment. A great deep dive into this case study, but kind of looking at a little bit, reflecting on how far we've come, who or what is making these impressive changes. Dr. Alice Bunn, I believe this is a congestion charge.
Yeah, like no other. It's worth reflecting on this for a minute, because whilst, as I said, that image of the International Space Station that you've just seen tends to be the thing that comes to mind when people think of space, actually, everyone in this room uses space technology, right? Without a doubt. Most people have used it 6 or 7 times before they've even made it to work in the morning. And people are surprised by that. And then you pause and you think, oh, hang on a minute, did I watch a weather forecast? 99.9% of the data for a weather forecast comes from space. Did I use public transport? Did I use the navigation system in my car? Did I use the bank? All the financial transactions we do are time-stamped by space. So really, the massive capability of space infrastructure is mostly about enabling us to live modern lives. This is all good so far. Except when you pause and reflect on that image in front of you, because what that has meant is that the space operating environment is getting increasingly congested. That has been a situation that's been steadily building, I would say, in the last few years with the onset of mega constellations, so thousands of satellites operating in a sort of system of systems, is becoming more and more of a problem. And there, I think, again, we will look to new technologies, we will look to AI, we will look to quantum computing to help manage that operating environment.
Exactly. So the dots that we're seeing there are satellites?
Yeah, so you see...
And it's 2023. What is it like going into 2026?
Yeah, exactly. There's some very scary predictions of what happens to the operating environment unless we do something about that and change the way that we use the space operating environment. What you see a really close ring around the Earth. That's low Earth orbit. That's typically around 800 kilometers, give or take a couple of 100 kilometers. You have medium Earth orbit, which is in the middle. And you have geostationary orbit, where you can just make out that bigger ring, which is some 36,000 kilometers away.
That Saturn-y, style-y ring.
Exactly.
And that's the ISS, is it?
No, the ISS, International Space Station, is about 400 kilometers above the surface. So a little bit closer. And very much in that busy ring. You see these amazing, I remember when Tim Peake flew, and again, you see these images of the astronauts kind of hanging out, looking out the window. They call it the cupola. You've got this like really beautiful viewpoint. And there was one image during his flight he sent back of like a windscreen chip, like you would have in your car if you were driving along the motorway. But it was on the cupola window in space, which is slightly more terrifying.
I mean, Tim Peake, who you know very well. I mean, astronauts, let's kind of, we know the importance and, you know, the training that they go to, the rigmarole. And I think when we were chatting earlier, we were calling, you know, astronauts superhumans, you know, and when you were doing your research for HEC and, you know, coming to the point which we're about to show and tell, you know, how is that approached from, you know, from knowing the astronaut is so integral to not only your product, but what the R&D that needs to be happening. So, you know, it's that big question, Thomas, you know, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? There's many things that make me happy, but happy in a sense that we have a feeling that by doing what we have done, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, we have helped space exploration get that tiny little bit onto the next level, because we know in the coming years, this space is going to be very likely even more crowded. And I have a feeling that the time spent in space is going to be longer and longer. So things that make us happy on Earth are not necessarily available or possible in microgravity. We know the impact of XR on your mind and your mindfulness on Earth. Yeah, we know that there's a lot of studies and, you know, clinical results that are showing that people are using XR to help patients with dementia. I mean, help to keep your body and mind kind of in the same space, but keep you sane, yeah, by seeing things that would activate all your senses that you would not necessarily see through a normal set of eyes in your physical surrounding, but simulating in an environment, whatever it might be, has some positive impact on cognitive skills.
Yeah, and does that kind of go, everything you just said there, go into like the creative brief when you're talking to creators that need to fill content for your headset for a specific mission or an astronaut training?
Content creation, specifically for Earth, for space exploration. I mean, everything we're seeing here on the show is fantastic. I've seen crazy things. I was actually able to fly over from France to the Pyrenees using these crazy jetpack things from one of these companies from Spain. So content creators here, they've got all these crazy ideas, and it's fascinating to see all that fuel and that energy that gets into it. But for space exploration, we have to take it one step back. We have to keep it simple. And what is simple is 360 video content. So no sophistication in terms of 3D and Unreal and Unity and heavy compute. Keep it simple, but keep it effective. Things that will trigger your senses and will make you feel good. And this is what we're going to be talking in a sec.
Love it, love it.
Yeah, I love it. Just jumping on your intro about astronauts being superhumans, like, yes, but that's no coincidence, right? There's some really, really incredibly rigorous screening programs, training programs. You know, you just imagine all the tests that they have to go through. So that's no coincidence that there is that screening at the beginning. But I think what we're going to come on and talk about is also the support that you can provide in flight. And that's really interesting too.
And I think in this day and age, we talk about, you know, people being superhumans and superheroes because we see them from the outside and they're fit and they practice a lot and there's a lot of training. But what we tend to forget is what happens in the mind, yeah? And so mental health is key. And we know that astronauts specifically are notorious for being trained and spending hours on bikes, and you see them with all these cables and sensors on the body, and they're on the treadmill, and okay, all that stuff, we know how to do it, right? It's
on
fast
Earth.
Performance on Earth.
Yeah.
But what happens in the brain is something that may have been underestimated in the past, and something that is obviously getting and gaining more attention and focus from the community right now.
Exactly. Can I talk about murderous cosmonauts?
Let's do it. Murder, do it.
Is it now that this happens?
Murderous cosmonauts. No, apologies to any cosmonauts in the room. Just building on Thomas's point, it's exactly right. So there's so many different things that can go wrong with space missions, and they have done over the years, right? Let's be real. But most of them have been technical in nature. There hasn't ever been a mission that has been either, you know, cancelled or cut short because of mental health issues or behavioral issues. But it's something that is increasingly important to take care of. There was, so as I say, we don't think this has been a massive problem in the past, but we do think we need to look to it in the future. There was an infamous quote from one of the Russian cosmonauts. He was a little bit misquoted, but it was something along the lines of, you know, locking people in a contained environment for a long period of time is murder-inducing.
So what's it called? Murderous what?
Ever. Yeah, murderous cosmonauts, yeah. It didn't ever happen. It didn't ever happen. But the point being...
Murderous cosmonauts. When's the last time you heard that? Yeah.
Exactly. If we're going to have long-duration space missions, we are going to have to pay a little bit more attention to this than we perhaps have done in the past.
I love it. I love it. So many key takeaways here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's crack into the case study. And Thomas, we're so excited. Thank you so much for preparing this and actually making it happen. There's so many times at these conferences we talk about things, and I love presenting a tangible case study that you've not even just it's not just R&D, it wasn't just a proof of concept, it wasn't an MVP. You've actually gone and done it, and you've got the space. So I love it that you've touched on these use cases around space training, preparation, mental health, physical health, the technical challenges that come with not only making the content, putting it into the product, but getting it on the astronaut, putting it in space, and all of the policy and protocol that has to come with it. That's a whole nother panel. So let's get stuck straight in here too. So what we're about to see is the VIVE Focus 3 on board the ISS, the International Space Station. There's no audio, so I think you're gonna talk us through a little bit more about what happened here. Yeah.
So here we go. Welcome to the ISS. And I think there's that misconception in our world, I mean, us living here on Earth, that life on the ISS must be so exciting and so much fun. And I actually reckon it's quite the opposite. It is small, everything is cramped, there's a lot of noise. I think the light is pretty much on all the time. I mean, I can't see myself do that for more than half an hour. So mental preparation, obviously, in addition to being physically fit, is really important. But what you've got here is Andreas Morgensen out of Denmark, using for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, virtual reality in microgravity. And that is the culmination of let's call it 2 years long project. And you talk about POC, MVP, and R&D, and we have gone
around
through all of that. It started off in 2021.
Right,
that went up to the ISS in November 23. What's the name of that mission?
On the clip, yeah.
Again,
yeah.
Whatever. And anyway, it was fascinating for us. I've lost my mic.
Yeah.
Couple of things we wanted to validate. Before getting to the positive impact on mental health and well-being is how the hell do we make this work when there is no gravity vectors available at all? Because not only the ISS is in constant freefall, yeah, so it's constantly falling around the Earth without ever hitting the ground, obviously. But for anyone who knows how the tech works, I mean, smartphones and VR headsets typically rely on accelerometers and gyroscopes and gravity vectors on Earth that do not exist when you're in microgravity. So a lot of R&D, headaches and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was important for HTC Vive to show that we are here to solve the world and humanity's biggest problems. It might not be the biggest problem now, but as humanity will evolve and we'll spend more time exploring what's outside of Earth, we need to solve that problem now, and very proudly we've done it. The mission finished, I think, in March 24. So Andreas Morgensen and the team spent 5 months with virtual reality every single day, experimenting on the positive impact on their mind, which effectively was great. There's a couple of things that you need to know. The mental and physical toll on astronauts is super high. So I'm told. I don't know myself, but I've been told so. Up to 40% muscle mass and up to 12% bone density loss for someone that spends 5 months on a space trip. Is that right?
Yep.
Get that right. Okay. So, I mean, you imagine the amount of work that these guys need to get into. It's basically to stay fit. To stay fit, they have to do 2 hours worth of physical activity in this crazy environment where they have to experiment with many, many other things. And obviously, the technical challenges are very complex, and we'll get back to that in a sec.
Right. We have a doctor in the house, luckily, who might be able to answer these questions. You know, the physical and mental toll that these things take for an astronaut.
Yeah, well, I mean, our bodies are designed to work in gravity, right? So when you're living up in the space station, you don't have that gravity and things. I mean, you see a lot of physical changes in astronauts. They quite often have this kind of lollipop physique. because you have fluid in the body starts to move around, right? So you have a disproportionate amount of fluid up in the head and the upper body, and the legs go very thin. Another impact that, again, not fully understood, but when astronauts return after about a 6-month trip in space, their immune system tends to be the immune system of someone typically double their age, so a 70-year-old. It reverts after about another 6 months, but there's an enormous toll on the body, and much of which we still don't understand.
The lollipop meaning just the round circle, but not chop-a-chop kind of lollipop. Not a chop-chop. Okay, good.
No.
So we've got another clip about Andreas speaking. This is with sound around the physical and mental health aspects, but really giving a really great example of physical.
Watch the headset.
And can you turn the lights down, please?
The International Space
Antoine?
Station involves the use
Missy?
of a virtual reality headset. The first experiment is concerned with mental health or psychological well-being. We astronauts on board the space station are living in a very confined, artificial, laboratory-like environment. It's very sterile, it's very cold, and we don't have access to nature. And that affects our psychological well-being. Personally, I really miss being able to step outside, to feel the breeze, to feel the wind, to feel the warmth of the sun, to smell the leaves, the grass, and the flowers. And even though the virtual reality headset doesn't let me do that, I still get a feeling of being in nature when I wear it. I have 5 different videos on this headset from various scenes in nature, including a sunset, a day at the beach, a mountain path, and a summer's day next to a river. And when I put on the virtual reality headset, I can hear the wind rustling through the leaves, hear the birds singing. I can almost feel the warmth of the sun. And I have to be honest, I didn't actually expect it would make much of a difference, but I found that I love wearing this headset. It takes me into nature. It makes me feel like I'm out in nature, that I'm outside of the space station, away from this artificial environment. And it de-stresses me. It makes me relax. It takes away a lot of the daily stress and just allows me to re-energize, just to kind of relax, to catch my breath, to feel like I'm back on the earth. It's a really great way to get away from this artificial environment on board the space station. For long duration missions, it makes a huge difference. The second experiment that involves the use of this virtual reality headset is an experiment that combines the headset with the bicycle, our stationary bicycle on board the space station, what we call CVIS. And this is another terrific experiment because when I combine the headset with our bicycle, it allows me to cycle different routes in Denmark. And it's actually one of my favorite things to do on board the space station now. I have 5 different routes from Denmark on this headset, including a mountain bike path through the woods, a route along the beach, one in the countryside, and one through Copenhagen, and one through another large city called Odense in Denmark. And what's even better is that the routes in this headset are integrated into the loading mechanism on this bicycle. And so when I'm, for example, cycling through the forest on a mountain bike path, the loads that I'm feeling while exercising matches what I see. So when I'm going uphill, the loads are increased, and when I go downhill, the loads are decreased. And that way, I actually feel like I'm bicycling through the woods on a mountain bike path. And it's really great. It's so motivating. And at the same time, I feel like I'm out in nature, enjoying a nice bike route through the woods or along the beach. And it's actually become one of my favorite things to do on board the space station, is to cycle while wearing the virtual reality headset. Now, one of the challenges of using the virtual reality headset in space is that the headset doesn't know where the horizon is. It can't sense gravity. but that's been solved using one of the controllers, which serves as an anchor point. And by me tilting it, pivoting it, adjusting its position, I can tell the headset where the horizon is, and that lets me cycle in a natural way, and also lets me just use the headset in a very natural way, so that it doesn't get affected by this lack of gravity on board the space station. Two of my favorite experiments that allow me to relax and that allow me to feel like I'm back on the Earth in nature.
There we go. There we go. Now we know that was that video was from a year or so ago, and we know that there's like obviously HCC do not stay quiet. The space sector does not ever stay quiet and keep moving. So we know that there's so much more to come. We're just going to touch on that for a second. So, but can you explain a little bit more how microgravity or how XR works in microgravity? And if not, we have a doctor in the house that can.
Yeah. But so on that bit, and I think I've seen this video maybe 25, 26 times, and every time I watch it, it reminds us why we're doing what we do. And this is where the vibe of that XR community is actually showing its full potential. Because when you manage to solve challenges like these, man, we're super proud. So it was obviously not just us. We had studios that worked with us, that went on site, did all the 360 video recording. I told you before, there's no great sophistication on the content, just something that Andreas is familiar with and that every day he would try. Phase 1, mental health unleashed. Phase 2, physical health. Get on the bike, see how much space he has on the bike. It's pretty,
Good circus training.
Oh my gosh. So not only is very small, but all this machinery means there's constant micro vibration. Anyone that has tried to set up a VR headset on a moving platform knows how tricky it is to do, right?
You need a virtual umbrella to come and help you.
Yeah, well, yes, correct. So what we're doing, and I will make it sound super simple, but don't forget, years of R&D, but instead of using the gravity vectors on Earth, we simulate the true north reference point for the headset by using this as the origin of everything. So the headset will apply some offset, some position compensation to measure the relative position, not in regards to the center of the Earth, but in regards to this. This is funny enough because that was a mode that we'd started to work on for theme parks.
Okay.
And back then, I don't know if anyone has done roller coasters and VR and everything, but yeah, it was big thing at some point.
Theme park, space station.
Yeah, but there is some similar, big kids, right? Big kids having fun in big rides. And so we'd started to develop things for moving platforms, but we'd never thought that that moving platform would be the ISS.
Right.
And so we made it, I mean, obviously Andreas has a lot of technical knowledge, but it was easy to use it every single day, and not just him. So I think on the ISS, they all have a job, they all have an experiment to run.
Yeah.
The mental health part of things, that was just him. When he got on the bike, his mates on the ISS were like, can I try? Because obviously,
big kids.
Changes
Astronauts are big
kids on a big ride.
Yeah. And I know, like, so a couple years of R&D, and you finally get this out. Are you able to kind of give a rough budget? Like, how much does something like that cost?
No.
Okay. I tried, ladies and gentlemen. I tried. I can probably make a guess as
I think one of the
producer.
things we do not control is obviously how do you comply with all the check boxes.
Of course.
Before you actually step a foot on the ISS.
Course.
Think about power management. You could see on the video that the little box that was hanging by the side of the headset is not the battery that the device comes with by default. So, yeah, power management and a lot of compliance.
Of course.
That we had to adhere with.
And confidentiality and the research and stuff.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, kind of, but the finance question, it's a bit more complicated, isn't it? I mean, I know we've focused on the benefits here for mental health, and, they are manifold. But you mentioned at the beginning, and I think this will be true going forwards, that masses of the benefits are for training purposes. And the problem with space is, you don't normally get a second shot, right? So if you're up there trying to fix something, unless you've had adequate training, it's likely to go wrong. The financial implications of that, I suspect, dwarf the outlay of the headset. So, you know, when you're talking to space agencies around the world, remind them of that point.
Exactly, and which you actually do for your living, for your job. But
I do.
You do. I love that. So next session we can get together a year from now and see the advancements happening. But you know, from your perspective, from the space sector, you know, the wider industry, UKSpace, beyond ESA, you work so closely with these international organizations. How important is this type of research, and you know, how important is this type of emerging technology for the astronauts, for the space sector in general?
Yeah, massively. And I think there's probably two big trends that we're going to see. So the International Space Station itself is due to come to the end of life in 2030, so 5 years away, not so far. And that will be deorbited in a mightily complex technical maneuver. But what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of interest from the commercial sector, actually, in the next space station. So I don't think the next space station will look like the International Space Station. Unfortunately, I don't think we're at a point where we get that level of international coordination, geopolitical harmony, call it what you like. And at the same time, I mean, you saw it on those videos, the International Space Station is basically a big research laboratory, and the astronauts spend the majority of their time doing experiments. What we've learnt is that some phenomenal materials can be produced in space, you know, flawless crystals, really, really helpful for the semiconductor industry. The pharmaceutical industry is also really, really interested. Already, we see the commercial production of fiber optic cable on the International Space Station because it's able to produce those ultra, ultra, ultra low loss cables in that zero gravity. So what I think we will see in the future is a different type of use of space. I think we will start to see manufacturing in the low Earth orbit environment. We will start to see the commercial sector come up, and that's a slightly different job for the astronauts too, with a whole host of different training requirements.
Yeah, and we have this slide as well, Alice, around, you know, looking at where the rapid pace is integrating, you know, the two little vowels that are really intelligent systems, autonomous things, things that are agentic, you know, where quantum compute fits in, which is a new big vertical for us, for WIT, as well as the space sector. You know, what would you like to see as far as tangible use cases, looking toward the future?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the big change that we'll see, so it's quite hard to make out that graph, isn't it? But if you just focus on the reg segment, what we are seeing is this huge surge in satellite infrastructure in low Earth orbit, and that's largely been around communications. You see satellite-to-satellite communications, you see interlinks, you see, you know, connectivity being enabled everywhere on the Earth. But as I said, that has come with a risk of the operating environment. It is already congested. 10 years ago or so, we used to hear about conjunction alerts. It always makes me laugh. It's very quaint, isn't it? Oh, there's a conjunction alert. What it means is there's about to be a really big crash in space. And as you can imagine, that sort of stuff generates a debris field, which would quickly render the whole operating environment unusable. So in terms of future tech, we will be totally reliant on AI, totally reliant on quantum computing to enable the autonomous maneuvering of these satellites to make sure that they're not crashing, first thing. Second thing, I think we will see a different way in which satellites are used. So far, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's been a bit of a throwaway economy. You know, the analogy is you'd go to a car showroom, buy a brand new car, fill the tank with petrol, and when the petrol ran out, you would leave it kind of as it was in the middle of the motorway, on the fast lane, wherever you happen to be. We're not going to do that so much anymore, and I think we will see new technologies come along which will enable refueling, will enable repairing in space, and could even enable recycling and some kind of salvage operations.
Right.
So a completely different shape to the space sector. But we will have to manage that operating environment, and we see new commercial outfits like
Odin.
the little guy you see there, which is in-orbit sensing of that debris field, of that debris environment to help those safer
The Hoover,
operations.
a space Hoover, basically.
That one's a sensor.
magnet.
We do also
Okay.
have debris removal, so
Okay.
great big debris Hoover. Yeah, it's a really, you've got me now.
Yes, okay.
I can go off on one for the next hour. I'm just going to
This
say,
is a 3-hour panel.
It's a
You
very,
can feel free
very,
to-
yeah, it's a
Just kidding.
very, very interesting challenge for the space sector to have, because of course, whatever capability you have that could, for instance, remove a broken satellite from orbit, which is helpful, getting it out of the way, is also the same capability that you could use to move a fully functioning satellite out of the way, such as a satellite that might be used by an adversary in warfare. It gets very complicated
Yes.
quite quickly.
Those are great conversations over a few bottles of wine, ladies and gentlemen, which we've done before in the local park. But I think everything you're mentioning, you know, you are knee deep into the sector. Like, again, 25 years, 30, more than that. You're like just really so dedicating your life to the space sector. You know, so much so with your awards and everything that you've won. But really understanding the trajectory of where the space sector is going. And everything you just said is so important to everyone in this room. Because not only are we thinking about, you know, besides things that are actually happening in space, you know, for me, in my executive producer head, I'm also thinking connectivity. I'm thinking 5G. I'm thinking 6G. What can make our latencies better? What can make our bandwidth better? What can make the connectivity things better? And I know, you know, Thomas, from your side, this is so important. Whereas if the Wi-Fi is not working or something's not working, the experience is ruined. People will take it off and never come. But it's just like about keeping your ecosystem going from that product point of view. And
That's right. And if you start talking about connectivity, I like it. But before I get to that, when I see this and I hear you talk about repairing, refueling, I mean, at some point they'll have to learn to do this on Earth. And that's why the beauty is of immersive technologies. If and when we're ready for some new Mars exploration or the next moon landing or new satellites, they will continue to use XR to learn, but the way they learn has to be, we call it kinesthetic learning. So learning by doing, but not using my controllers and my A, B, and X, Y buttons because it's a bit of a gimmick. It's a bit too gamified.
Yeah.
Some people like to learn gamified experiences. Others need to be, you know, doing the real thing with their real equipment and their real tools and everything. So that's why at VIVE we continue to be obsessed with tracking and finding the best way for people to interact with their working environment, whether they're astronauts or they can be anyone, wearing them, you know, on their wrists, on their waist, on their ankles, having them mounted on props. So they actually learn the right movement with the right tool at the right weight. And so when they have to replicate it in real life, they know how to do it. It's not like I'm not going to be fumbling around buttons and trying to sort things out. I've done it before. My brain has seen this situation. Things can go wrong and will go wrong if I'm not prepared for this. So let's keep on doing it over and over again. The ability to repeat the process and fail and start again and fail and then get to that point where, okay, I'm ready for it now. Not that I can do it. I know I can do it, but I'm mentally prepared for that situation.
And I think you called it astro learnings. Right? We were talking about astro learnings, maybe on the go. Or I think collectively, we're like, it's almost like astro learnings of, you know, integrating technology for humanity, but making things more democratized. That's right. So it's not just like such a totally way over there you can be an astronaut, way over there you can be a physicist, way over there you can work in the space sector. It is really integrating technology for humanity for the greater good of learning and education. I know you got a clip coming up too, but go ahead, Thomas first, and then
you cut me short. On the connectivity, one thing. Connectivity is what will allow us, hardware manufacturers, to produce smaller, lighter, easier to use headsets, because right now, one can argue that headsets are still big. They're quite heavy. They just add up to the amount of stuff they have to carry on the space station. So shift the processing power away from the headset thanks to advanced connectivity, which we will probably get access to thanks to the work that happens out of space. At HTC, we work on private 5G networks as well. So we've already started to experiment 5G-enabled headsets through a dongle to render high-quality PC VR content from the edge. I'll stop there because then we're getting a bit too techy. But I thought it was a great point. bouncing off your comment around
And
connectivity.
we're all bouncing all over the place today. So it's good,
Always.
Thomas. It's all, but we're making sense of it, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you're enjoying the session. As we're kind of like wrapping up here, and I'm not sure if there's audience questions, but I think we've got a few more things to get to, and then we can come and hang out afterward, probably by the coffee, but not while another session's going on, because that's kind of weird. We can't hear clinking there, too. Apologies for cutting you off, but I think you mentioned the PCs before, too, and we also worked very closely the importance of compute and GPUs, CPUs, and now NPUs too. But I think that's kind of all tying together. Did you want to jump in there real quick from when he was talking about the humanity?
I was just remembering the Astro Learnings conversation we had, and I think
that was you.
Okay,
I think it was
was that you then?
I think it was me. I think it was me.
I feel better now.
As the advocate for the space sector, saying, "Well, hang on a minute. It's not all about the astronauts. They're quite privileged anyway. Why can't we use these?
They're superhumans.
It's for the kids. Why can't we use these to learn about space?" Segue back to your next
It's
video.
a great segue because we wanted to talk about now just kind of looking forward a bit, but we know that we need to appreciate everything that at United XR, everything that we're bringing together around, from the scientific learnings, academia, things that are happening even from a very, very young age. A lot of times on these panels, we're talking about quite, high-end C-suite type of case studies, even though this was like very, very practical and things that we're learning here too. But what I really love about this chat is that we are really keeping things real. We are keeping things tech for human, and we're keeping things about space and education. I'm wondering, can we roll this video? And then we can go there. Right, so with sound, lights down, please. Thank you. Oh, sorry, apologies, no sound. You're going to...
No sound, I'm the sound, yeah.
Yeah.
So what you've got here is a fully packaged product from a partner called VR Core out of Canada. And basically, they're obsessed with learning and how do we use technology and immersive technology specifically to get kids and pupils to learn and be inspired by, being an astronaut. How does that work? And so basically, they convert gymnasiums in school into a massive playground for them to use that same headset that was used on the ISS. All together as a group, led by the teacher. So very simple, very easy to use, and they can walk through, they can play around with the planets, they can explore the solar system, they can have a bit of a guided tour of the ISS or spaceship of some sort. So this is really us helping the community take the content that we have, the knowledge that and the understanding that we have gained now in terms of XR in space, and really give these kids a way to be inspired and to continue to dream. And this is going back to the question one, what makes you happy? I mean, that kind of stuff gives a lot of purpose to what we do, doesn't it?
It's awesome. And Alice, you've spoken at globally world conferences, G6, Sci 7, 8, 9 summits, United Nations, but you've also been very proactive with education in space too, and like what's exciting you the most about this new emerging tech and how it can help?
Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, this time next year, we're going to be doing this again, right? And it's going to be a tour of the solar system, and we're going to see all the kids walking around. It's a deal. I mean, it's brilliant. We talk about it a lot in the space sector because we are blessed in that it is a sector that attracts inspiration. People are genuinely curious and excited by space. That's really, really powerful in terms of pulling through a next generation that want to study STEM subjects more broadly in the round. So it's super, super beneficial for that. Of course, we also need those same skills in the space sector and in adjacent tech sectors as well. So it's a win-win.
Amazing, amazing. Are we doing audience Q&A? Does anyone have a question they would like to project from their diaphragm? Yes? Would anyone have a question? Great, got 2 questions here too, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, it's very exciting. Quick question on motion sickness, no vestibular response, microgravity. How does that work? Like, are people getting any kind of reaction, or does it make everything even smoother? And is there any motion sickness whatsoever, or this is a problem that doesn't exist in microgravity?
Well,
You mean the content that they're seeing in the screen?
Yeah, exactly.
Does the motion sickness counterbalance the gravity, right? Thomas?
the content, and again, simplicity was key, right? So we did go ahead with our studio partner with simple, fairly static content with a really simple point of view. That is key, actually, because, but as far as the system goes, there is no issue whatsoever. I mean, the interview you got from Andreas, I mean, he could have continued to talk highly about the experience all along. So now, I'm not sure if these guys are more resilient to motion sickness than us, humble humans. I do not know that. But the feedback was that the system works really, really, really well. And don't forget, the first part of the experiment was to validate that virtual reality works in microgravity. We knew before sending it to the ISS that it works for up to 22 seconds because that's what zero gravity flight, is that 22 or 32? 22 seconds, I think. So you go up and down 22 seconds, up again and down in microgravity, 22 seconds. So before we knew it, we knew that the technology was working and the first reaction was very positive. So I'd be tempted to say no motion sickness, which is a combination of the new tracking solution that we've developed for them and the simplicity of the content that was chosen for the experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the quick build on that is most astronauts say they do experience some kind of nausea when they're in space and, in transit anyway. So is it worse? Not sure. I mean, let's face it, they're traveling at 8 kilometers a second in microgravity. There's going to be some effect, right?
Exactly. We've got time for one more, and I saw a hand go up there, but we'll get back to you. Sorry, go ahead. And if you're happy to say your name and where you're from, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really exciting. I'm Anya Emmons from University of Glasgow. Hello. And I guess my question was, some of the uses we've seen center around astronauts and cosmonauts, and obviously those are people who sort of, number one, need this technology. But I was wondering about some of the other roles in the space sector. So is there anything being done for the engineers, mechanics, like the people building these systems, or do you see a role for like other types of workers in this industry?
Alice? Yeah, absolutely. Especially as the space sector, we were very often talking about one-off events. So the point that Thomas was making earlier about training in all of the assembly and the manufacture of some of these really, really complex space missions, you could absolutely see an application there already. I mean, obviously we use digital twins a lot already, so it's a natural build on that.
And I think it's a really good question. Thanks for asking. I had a little note here. I'm not 100% familiar. Well, you got notes on the iPad. I'm still old school. So,
you're allowed analog.
The beauty of this thing is that it did actually inspire other industries outside of space. And we have a research at the Amundsen Scott in the South Pole in Antarctica. They have been experimenting with immersive tech, and they discovered as well that immersive videos would have a positive impact on mental health. So it's fascinating to see how industries are kind of looking up to each other and taking all the key benefits and learning from the best possible use of the tech that is available now, not the stuff that we're working on in the long terms and that is designed to inspire you guys and make you all dream of super lightweight, transparent display, yada, yada. It's what does work right here, right now to solve a specific challenge. And this is what, together as an ecosystem, we've been working on quite relentlessly over the past few years, and you can count on us to continue to push that through.
Yeah, and it's a point well made, because those transverse benefits that you would get from a mental health perspective, you would always also get from an exploration perspective, and we often talk about the parallels between exploring deep seas, for instance, and exploring deep space, and I think the same applies there too.
Amazing. I think, thank you so much, everybody. I want this last dream gig situation in a year. I know we keep talking about 2030, we don't we've stopped saying, what do you want to be in 5 years? It's more like 5 minutes. Things change so quickly, but what would be your dream scenario for another XR experience in space, and then to Alice? No wrong answers, just
no. I feel like with what I'm seeing now, actually intrigued by space. I've never been like a space nerd or anything, but one of my sons is, and he's got the NASA T-shirt, and I'm like, you don't even know what it is. Why do you rock that? Because it's cool. Okay, it's cool. So I have to think it's cool myself. So now I want to go and explore. I don't know when the next and first commercial trip to wherever it might be, but if it happens for me, I'll grab my VIVE Focus 3.
So you would
I'll
go up
load
in
up a
space?
load of content. I'd love to.
Let's do it.
Love to.
Right,
It's
maybe
only,
the three of us.
100 kilometers away.
United XR in space. Who's up for it?
Yes, me.
Yes, one guy.
I'll
That's
do
all
it.
good. Two people.
Two.
That's cool. And dreaming big, Dr. Alice Bunn. What would you love to see
Well,
with the merging there?
mine's much more down to earth, I'm afraid.
Well,
We do
no pun
need-
intended, of
Yeah,
like the weird-
absolutely pun intended.
Okay.
Because it is true, you know, for all the benefits and for all the excitement of exploration, it is still a fundamental critical infrastructure that we rely on to live on Earth. And I'm one of those people that does not think there is a planet B. And we need to really focus on looking after our own Earth, and space does that very well. So my dream would be that we crack the reuse, the recycling, the refueling, the using space in a more sustainable way. And I'm quite optimistic about that too.
And then we can wrap all that up, make more experiences, and then see you back in space. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been a Women in Industries Tomorrow panel. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Alice. We'll see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll see you at the Words tonight, and another Sex Tech panel at 2 p.m. in version 3. Thank you, United XR. Thank you.